By 2050, we want to be the global epicenter of sports.
You look at your coach and you say, no, I'm taking the shot.
Where we were in 1979 when we said we want to be this. Well, now we're in 2025 and we're saying we're going to be that.
There's so many options to do anything. Why sports? From South Bend to Evansville and everywhere in between, this is Get In, the show focused on the Hoosier State and the incredible stories happening here today. I'm Nate Spengel, founder of Get Indiana, and I will be your host for today's conversation. Before we get into the episode, I have a question for you. Did you know that Indiana has been a hub for sports innovation for over a century? Starting with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where pioneers tested game-changing tech like seatbelts and anti-lock brakes. That forward-thinking spirit is still in overdrive today, and SportsTech HQ is at the center of it. They're on a mission to scout the most groundbreaking sports tech that is shaping the future of sports, and to bring those innovators right here to Indiana. Guess what? It's working. SportsTech HQ already has 38 companies in its collective that call Indiana home, with 16 relocating from around the world in just the past year. Home to a world-class sports infrastructure, Indiana provides the perfect foundation for entrepreneurs to advance innovations that can change the game for fans, athletes, and teams. SportsTech HQ is the leading global hub for an industry that is projected to reach $100 billion by 2030. Discover how these companies are driving the future of sports through Indiana's robust ecosystem of partners at sthq.org. Now let's get into the show. Today, I'm joined by Julie Rowe Lach, a trailblazer in college athletics with over 25 years of experience, currently serving as the Horizon League commissioner and board chair of the Indiana Sports Corp. She's a former All-American women's basketball player at Millikan University and a seasoned leader from her days at the NCAA. Julie's passion for sports, community, and strategic innovation shines through every project she undertakes. Today, we're going to be talking about student-athlete name, image, likeness in the Horizon League and beyond. I mean, we've all seen the stories of college athletes starting to get paid. And we're going to talk what's on the horizon for all things Horizon League. Julie, welcome to Get In.
Thank you, Nate. It's great to be here.
I am pumped up about this. So for anyone that's been listening to the podcast for the last few weeks, I'll say, at the Corteva Coliseum on March 10th and 11th, Indy is playing host to the Horizon League Championships, both men and women's. That's exciting.
It's really exciting. This is year 6 for our Horizon League Championship to be here in Indy. And it's just been, each year, it's been bigger and better.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think for starters, when we think about Horizon League is not only do we have teams here in Indiana, but the whole league is headquartered here in Indiana.
That's right.
Here in Indianapolis.
Yeah, our worldwide headquarters are right downtown on Market Street.
Heck yeah, I've been there. Great time, great place. But like in the two teams that are from Indiana, we have Purdue, Fort Wayne, and IU, Indianapolis. Can't mess up names. So used to be different noticeable names, but now we've kind of rebranded a little bit in the last few years. And they're both doing pretty well, I would say.
In particular, the Mastodons up the road, both on the men's and women's side. But we are. A lot of people will say, well, who's in the Horizon League? We're a 6-state footprint right now, Division I programs across 6 states, 10 cities, because we've got 2 schools in the Metro Detroit area. So last year, of course, we had the Oakland men here who Jack Golke gave quite a performance here, but then really gave quite a performance when they went on to beat Kentucky in the first round of the NCAA tournament. So it's a really exciting 2 days because it's our semifinals and finals.
Oh, yeah. March starts here, right? That's right. Like the whole shtick.
That's our term. We've coined that because it does start here, right? All of March Madness. We claim it. It starts here.
Yeah, it's like the first, it's an early conference tournament. Things get rolling. And our guy, I have to give a humble shout out to my guy, Luke Bazzo, who's running athletics at IU Indianapolis and doing great things, and the dominoes are starting to fall in the right way there.
He is building really something special there. I think it starts with culture, and Luke, like he's such a charismatic, high energy guy with the values, the care. What does he have it? Work hard, make noise, have fun.
Yeah.
I think that's his slogan. He's really embraced that, and you see that just throughout his department. They just hosted our swimming championships at the Natatorium this past Wednesday through Saturday. Just the energy that his staff showed up every day. Those are long hours, long days.
It's like I'm a wrestling coach. Like wrestling isn't the most fun if you're not like a diehard wrestler to like go and watch. Like swimming is similar to that, like sitting there and watching people swim. You're like, for like the last 2 seconds of every race, you're like pretty
That's
intent.
right.
But it's a long day for sure.
It's a long day.
Okay, so 6 years we've hosted the championship here in Indianapolis. Where was it at before that?
So we were at Little Caesars Arena in Detroit before that, and prior to that, it was campus rounds. And so we were campus rounds. We needed a destination. Our Olympia Sports Entertainment, they were our partner for a few years there. Great run. We just recognized we need to be in a more central location and still a destination city right in our footprint. And Indianapolis, what better place?
What are those 6 states that all compete in the Horizon League?
So, okay, you're going to test me here
Mm-hmm.
off memory, but we've got Ohio, because we have several schools from Ohio, Wright State, Cleveland State, Youngstown State. We've got Pennsylvania. Robert Morris is our lone Pennsylvania member. We go up to Wisconsin and have Green Bay and Milwaukee. Michigan with Detroit, Mercy, and Oakland. Right here in Indiana, IU, Indy, and Purdue, Fort Wayne. And then in Kentucky, we have Northern Kentucky.
Look at that, 6 for 6. Okay, and what goes into a bid like that when you're thinking about where to host a conference tournament? And obviously, it's nice because Indianapolis is right in your backyard. But I'm assuming people are trying to come in and say, "Hey, we want to move it here or there or anywhere." So what all goes in when you're deciding where to host it?
You know, when we went through this process, and it was, well, since this will be year 6, we're talking 7, 8 years ago. We literally hired a consulting firm to help us, our staff, and we ended up putting the request for bids out. We had, I think, at the end of the day, 8 cities bid, and we narrowed it down to 5, all within our footprint. And some cities, sports commissions, looked at it as more inventory. Other cities really embraced it as, we want to make this an important community event. This isn't just come in and play a couple days of basketball. And that's really where Indy, because of, I think, our secret sauce here, I'm biased, obviously, but of hosting events, they just came in and blew the socks off our committee. And we had ADs from, of course, other states sitting on this advisory group. And when the State Fair Commission with Cindy Hoy and her team, and we had other representatives from the city and state come in, it was really obvious this is where we needed to be.
What do the other athletic directors or coaches say when they come to Indianapolis? What's the feedback that you guys get?
It has been not just coaches and ADs, but also now our presidents who come here. They're just like, this is exactly where it needs to be, because they're seeing 32,000 plus people coming to our games. They're seeing, and that's, of course, over the course of all of the games, but they're seeing the community really step up. We have a local organizing committee, Nate, of 30 people that meet once a month in our offices, starting in September, to say, how do we blow it up this year and make this a great student-athlete experience? What are some community events we can put on? So that's where we've really been able to build some synergies here with the community.
Well, talk to us then about what are the community aspects that are going to happen around this year's Horizon League Championship.
Sure. So we call them amplifying events, right? Because we want to amplify this event. It starts with, we've always have a fan zone. Vallejo has stepped up and sponsored that, just right across from the Corteva Coliseum, where fans can come. We've got anything from the Indy sign where you can go be the I in Indy. We had
Whoever thought of that's a genius.
I know, right? And we had some sort of canned good exhibit. There's, of course, Papa Shots, big screens with a bar set up so you can watch other games happening. Then we have an Anthem School Day where we bring in up to 3,000 kids. We make it a literary day, so they have a packet. They go to this organized chaos in the Grand Hall called Fast Break Zone, where they go through 25 stations. The teachers love it because they're burning energy and learning. And then they come watch our women's champ game, which this year will be on ESPN2 at noon, which will be awesome. And then we have this will be our 4th year, our International Women's Day celebration. Last year, CEO of the Pacers, Mel Raines, was our headliner. This year, we have not only the new president of the Fever, Kelly Kroskoff, but the president of Indy Ignite, and Mary Kay Hughes. So some real power players who are making strong plays in sports, and they're obviously women leading in that space.
Oh, yeah. We had Allison Barber on the podcast a few months back.
Amazing.
And talking about making Indiana and Indianapolis the hub, the capital of women's sports across the world. And they're doing some amazing. And when you have someone like Caitlin Clark, it's pretty,
it helps.
It makes sense, right?
It's a bit of a catalyst.
You talk about like having a school day. I went to the IU men's home opener and they hosted it at the Coliseum.
Oh, nice.
And it was a school out of bounds, kids go crazy. It's like your ears are ringing. And it's like, talk about an environment to play in. I think they played IU Columbus maybe or whatever. And it's like a 50 to 100 point game, but the kids are still going crazy.
Right.
And I was like, and then Boomer comes out. Yeah, Boomer comes out at halftime. And I thought these kids were going to pop a gasket. It was awesome, which I love, like getting out there and being part of the community.
That's right.
We grow basketball here, It's like whether it's the top NCAA Final Four, championship game or kickoff for, I don't know, elementary basketball down the street. Like, we're excited to host these things and get those opportunities. I think it's awesome. One thing I will say, this is not just going to be an hour-long commercial for the Horizon League Championships. But when we think about other than basketball, how many sports feed into the Horizon League?
We sponsor 19 regular season sports, and then championships.
19.
19.
Let's see. Do we know all 19 of these?
Yes, we can. We'll see if I can make it through here. But so in the fall, we'll start off there. You've got men's and women's soccer and volleyball and cross country. The cross country championship, it's men and women running together. It's a really fun event. All those
So would that
other
be one of the
championships are
19 or
separate.
two?
So that would be one. So there's technically 14 events, 19 championships. 'Cause some of those are co-ed like that. But that's our fall lineup. And then in the winter, we just had our swimming championship. And then, of course, we've got basketball, men's and women's. And then we have our indoor track as well. And that's men's and women's run together. Then you go to the spring and you've got tennis, men's and women's together, golf, men's and women's. We take over a golf course down in Florida. That's a really fun experience. Work with the Orlando Sports Commission.
For the championship?
For a championship.
Ooh.
It's a fun, great. I mean, we talk about it on the Horizon League providing major experiences, and we know that championship has got to be culminating because some will go on and play in the NCAA postseason. For some, that's it. So we want this to be that pinnacle competitive Division I experience that our student athletes deserve. So golf happens, and then baseball, softball, and outdoor track.
That's a heck of a crew. How many different student athletes? Like, do you have a number of how many student athletes are involved?
In the Horizon League, we have just over 4,000 total student athletes that compete in our championship. It's around 2,400.
2,400. Holy smoke. That's a lot of lives being touched there. When you think about what metrics are you guys using to track success of the Horizon League sports?
So just in terms of how are our teams doing, there's some competitive metrics. And the NCAA, like in basketball, they use the net for men's and women's, and that's essentially strength of schedule. Are you winning on the road? Are you winning at home? And then it boils down to a number. So we look at that and we look at where are our teams. Like literally I was looking at this yesterday for men and women. And then what is our conference rank? So there are 32 Division I conferences. Where, when you take our numbers together, where do we collectively rank? And we've got goals in particular in basketball about where we want to be. This goes on, and then in soccer, they use a different metric. So the team sports all have metrics. We care about that, but then we also care about specific to our championships. We do surveys of our student athletes to really figure out how was their experience.
Yeah.
Everything from hospitality to locker room experience to awards to gifts to the actual competitive, whether it's the pool, the track, the court, like just that entire competitive experience. So it's all of it.
When I think of Horizon League, and you can correct anything that you're like, that's a misconception. I don't even think about it the way. But it's like you're D1, you're Division I, you're, at the top of athletics. But, I don't know how many Horizon League men's or women's basketball players are going to go on and play professionally. So you're like somewhere in this middle of very, very competitive, and you want to obviously win games, but you also have like the academic experience. And how do you guys position yourselves against, like, whether it's D3, D2, or NAIA, or the top tier Division I programs? I don't know. How do you guys think about that landscape?
Okay, so first the number's 27. We have 27 former Horizon League men's basketball student athletes, either playing pro or have played pro in the NBA. So just
lifetime?
Yes, that's where we are today.
27.
We do have, just like the old NCAA commercial, most of our student athletes are going to go pro in something besides sport. We do have some of those truly elite athletes who are going to figure out how to make this their livelihood.
Really?
Notwithstanding that, we have a responsibility to educate them, right? One, of course, they are meeting academic progress. That's a requirement for them before they even step on the field. But two, I mean, this is why I still work in college sports. This is the best leadership lab there is. The skills they are getting will absolutely equip them to go on to do whatever it is they want to do in their career. I believe that.
Oh, and there's so many business owners, leaders that hire specifically ex-college athletes, right? Because you have to put in time, you have to compete at the highest level. All those, especially like sales, you think of some of those like gritty industries. It's like you gotta have, if you know how to wake up and do 2-a-days or whatever it is, you know how to go and sell software, whatever it is.
100%.
Okay.
And resiliency. I mean, you're a coach, like being able to literally get knocked down and get back up, be told no, and then make the next call. Like it's all transferable.
It's like, they're going to tell you no. It's like, I physically got hacked on shots. Like I can
playing.
handle a no, right?
Play through it.
Okay. So 27 men's basketball athletes have gone on. Have there been other notable accolades of whether it's track and field or golf or anything like that have gone and done, had a professional career?
Probably baseball is our next strongest sport. And then in soccer, we've got people playing in not the MLS, the level just below it.
The one where the Indy 11 is?
Women's, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for that assist. But in baseball, we've had plenty, and that's probably, our numbers are even more than in basketball, just in terms of, guys being able to punch that ticket and go beyond.
Okay, so when you think about athletics and we're ranking the Horizon League, who wins the most championships year in and year out? What school?
And I'm not just saying this to be politically correct with my membership, but it really changes. We have something we call the Commissioner's Cup, and that's essentially based on how you do in each sport. You're awarded points, and then at the end of the year, there's the school who has essentially excelled the most in men's sports, a school that has excelled the most in women's sports, and then you put those scores together for the overall champion. We've had Oakland win, we've had Youngstown win, we've had Milwaukee win.
I'm gonna say Oakland won last year. It looks like.
Yes.
I'm like, listing of all-time winners of is this the McCafferty?
McCafferty, yes.
The McCafferty Trophy. All right, we'll do a quick deep dive in and see.
I love it.
This is interesting to me. Because you think through of like, okay, we know we get exposure to IU Indianapolis and Purdue Fort Wayne, but there are those analogs in these 6 different states.
Right.
And you get to see, does the Horizon League men's and women's basketball champion get a bid to March Madness?
Yes.
Well, that's pretty cool.
So, and that's every Division I conference has that. And, you were asking, okay, how do we fare just within Division I? Horizon League's been in existence for 44 years, might be going on 45. 39 of those years, one of our teams has won in the NCAA postseason.
Wow.
So last year, obviously, Oakland men beat Kentucky in a very historic, exciting win in men's basketball. We've had teams win in baseball. Wright State beat Ohio State a few years ago. We've had teams win in women's basketball. Green Bay has been a perennial success story of women's basketball in our league. Had Milwaukee women's soccer, a real pocket of regional and national excellence. They've won in the postseason. So it's not one program, one sport every year, which is, I think, what's special about being such a strong mid-major. We have these pockets of excellence that just come through, and it's not every year, but they've got to build it, and then they're ready to go.
I know. Okay, so I went back and looked the last 10 years. So of the McCafferty Trophy for most championships, men's and women's sports, Oakland is kind of a wagon. 2014, 2015, Oakland. 2015, 2016, Oakland. 2016, 2017, a three-peat, four-peat.
Wow.
2018, they were second in 2018, 2019, and then came back and won it in 2020, won it in 21, and won it 22. And then second in 23, and then won it in 24. So Oakland has
Golden Grizzlies,
yeah,
right?
Holy smokes. Okay, so then let's flip that, right? You talked about educating these athletes is important. Who is the Harvard of the Horizon League? Who has the best average GPA, if you know that offhand?
So we have like an academic honor roll that we roll out every semester, and we have over 1,200 student athletes on that academic honor roll, and it's a certain GPA or above. But you're talking 1,200 plus. It might have even been 1,400 student athletes. We have GPAs. This is where I don't want to misquote it. Women's basketball historically has strong GPA, just when you look at that sport compared to others.
I feel like women's sports probably just has better GPAs than the boys' sports in general. I feel like we would always see that. I always say I was on the football team at DePaul. I never played football, but I was on a college football team. You know, I was a GPA guy, locker room guy.
You
and then
helped out.
I
Yeah.
became the social media manager my senior year and like made all their hype videos and stuff. And then it's funny that it ends up turning into this.
See, you found
right?
your passion. That's amazing.
Exactly. Found what I went pro in, right? It was
exactly.
not football, but
Exactly.
Adjacent to it. So you were you were the first when it comes to the NCAA women's basketball unit and your role for the fund that was created for women's basketball. I'd love for you to touch on what you guys did there.
Within the NCAA structure, there's too many committees. One of them is this Women's Basketball Oversight Committee, and I've been on this committee going on my 5th year now. When we knew that this next iteration of the ESPN contract was coming up.
When you say the ESPN contract, explain that to me like I'm 5.
Okay, the NCAA has 2 big contracts. The biggest is with CBS Turner, and that is for men's basketball March Madness. The second contract, which is still big but not as big, is for all their other championships. So softball, baseball, which are big. Those World Series are big. You see them on TV, right? women's basketball March Madness, which has really exploded, as you know. You know, they had 18.9 viewers for the women's champion, 18.9 million viewers for women's basketball champ game, and the men's was like 14.
I remember tuning into that. Heartbreaker if you were rooting for Iowa, but everyone still watched. It was
Right.
like this the hockey game that just happened.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't remember.
Canada.
Yeah, right. It was like you had to. I don't know why I was watching this. I don't know what we were playing for, but I had to turn it on. Like I had to
sports,
see.
Right?
Yeah, I had to see Caitlin's last game in college for sure.
Exactly. The NCAA, after they negotiated this big ESPN contract, the majority of that money was really because of women's basketball. Knowing that, the NCAA and those of us that serve on these committees said, we already have this pot of money that's called the Men's Basketball Excellence Fund. So when a team wins a game in the postseason on the men's side, there's money that then goes to the conference and usually goes back to the team. We haven't had that pot of money for women's basketball. And with this recent contract, it was time to establish it. So that now fund, if you will, has been established. And knowing that it was coming, we were the first conference to say, when our teams earn money, we're going to take it and put it right back into women's basketball. And candidly, even if they don't for the next 2 years, we're pulling money out of our savings to create our own excellence fund to reward women's teams in our league that hit certain metrics.
That's amazing. When you think about like getting more money into these programs, like what opportunities does that create for these women's basketball teams in the Horizon League?
Well, our hope is that it incentivizes our schools to continue to invest in women's athletics and in particular women's basketball, because we know, just like on the men's side, you can drive exposure for the university, you can drive fan interest, you can drive some revenue to then frankly help offset all of the expenses your department is taking on.
And that's like a perfect segue into, so you came to Indianapolis to work at the NCAA. This was 25 years ago?
Yeah, 1999.
Now, when I think of college sports and I think of the NCAA, everything seems to be about money, right? This contract, that contract, name, NIL, this, that, the other thing. Was it that way 25 years ago?
No.
Like people used to care about sports and results in graduating, I feel like, right? Not the transfer portal.
And I think they still do care about, for those of us that are working in it, the graduation part in particular.
Yeah.
But the emphasis on the rules and what matters has dramatically changed. I worked in and then I ended up running the enforcement department, which is the investigative unit for the NCAA.
No, the whole thing. The whole thing.
So
I bet you have some good stories.
Do. Yeah, that's your off the record podcast.
Okay. So we'll get the Johnny Manziel inside story in the off the record podcast.
Yeah. So we were looking at things like phone calls, right? Like too many phone calls in a week. The infamous Kelvin Sampson cases. That was all when I worked there. Some of the extra benefit. There's academic fraud cases, but you would see, literally the bag of money, and the bag of money had like $50,000 in it. And that was a recruiting inducement, and now the student athlete's ineligible. The school's going to be on probation. I'm going way back to like the Alabama Albert Means case. This is like early 2000s where they were looking at a postseason bowl ban. I mean, all of those things that were violations, for the most part, are not today.
All right, y'all, let's talk hoops. You know March Madness is electric, but here's something you need to have on your radar. The Women's Basketball Invitation Tournament, known as the WBIT. The NCAA launched this in 2024, and it's bringing high-stakes, high-energy postseason basketball to women's basketball. And guess what? It's going down right here in Indianapolis at the legendary Hinkle Fieldhouse. This is where history happens. The semifinals are March 31st, and the championship is April 2nd. So if you want in on the action, now's the time. Tickets are crazy affordable, $29 for the championship game, or just $44 for an all-session pass to catch all the final rounds. You can grab them on Ticketmaster or by clicking the link in the description below. Don't miss this high-level competition, rising stars, and that raw, unfiltered passion that makes college basketball the best. Be there. Like I'm thinking, was it like the 80s or 90s? But I think it was something around recruiting in like SMU with the death penalty for college football. And like, it like totally ruined their program for a decade.
Yes.
For like stuff that
really
everyone's
longer. Yes.
Yeah. And honestly, like they're still kind of like building back from like where the pinnacle they used to be at. And now it's just like, oh yeah, this is just acceptable, like this is just normal now.
They were the first and then ultimately only case that had the death penalty, which was you can't have the program. After that, the stiffest penalty you saw was you can't play in the postseason. And even that was handed out really sparingly.
And so did you ever have to like issue, like what was the most severe penalty you were part of issuing?
The USC case.
With Reggie?
Yes. That was when I was in enforcement, and that was then appealed and on and on and on. But that involved postseason sanctions, and naturally they were challenging that.
As you've seen this shift, I think the easiest way to see it manifesting coming to life is in, Caleb Williams or the biggest players getting. I just saw it in college wrestling. Bo Bassett is like the number 1 recruit. He's a junior, and somehow, in some way, the shaking is that he's getting $5 million to go to the University of Iowa to be on the wrestling program to help them beat Penn State.
Wow.
That's what so it's like, even in wrestling, millions of dollars are being doled out. But as you go down the line, this is even impacting Horizon League athletes that, maybe not be signing $1 million contracts, but how do you see NIL, name, image, likeness, being part of Horizon League athletes' lives?
It definitely is. It's here, and it's not going away. To back up a couple of years ago, the whole ability for student athletes to go out and do endorsement deals, the true endorsement deals, like we saw Caitlin on State Farm, we see Juju on State Farm now, right? Those are NIL deals where someone outside of athletics can hire a student athlete to promote. When all this was starting, we at the Horizon League said, we need to figure out how to help our student athletes meet that opportunity. So we did this platform with Open Doors.
Yeah.
So we had 1,000 student athletes sign up and create profiles, kind of like Match.com, but not creepy. It was very, very clean, and they would put their profile on, their sport, their picture, where they're from, what their major is, and what they would do to endorse a product. We had, over the course of 3 years, $900,000 worth of transactions.
Holy.
Some of those were run through collectives, which I'm going to get into in a second. Some of those were literally Dunkin' Donuts hiring some of our more entrepreneurial student athletes. Women's basketball seemed to have the most success to promote their favorite latte. Now, these were student athletes that already had great social media followings. So they said, how can I capitalize on this and the fact that I'm a Division I women's basketball student athlete? And they really got to work and would notify brands through this platform, and then they would negotiate a deal, and all the financial documents and everything were done through Open Doors. It was fantastic. So that was what I would call very legit NIL.
Like 900,000, that's way more.
That wasn't to one student athlete. I think the highest transaction was like around 50,000 through the platform.
Was that also an athlete that probably had their own social media following and this, that, and the other thing?
They would work at it. They had to go out and promote their brand.
Yeah. That's still more than I had actually thought. 3 years, we're running through the Open Doors platform. Mm-hmm. Wow. That's good money.
That was really our first step into it. And we were the only league that did the league-wide deal with Open Doors. A lot of schools had their own web pages.
And what does that mean? Because there's like transaction fees, or did you do a piece of that? Or what does brokering that look like?
We got no money. We just paid for it. We just said, Open Doors, rather than you do a deal with all 11 of our schools, do a deal with us and give us a discount, because we're now bringing you 11 schools instead of one. And so they gave us a good deal relative to that. So they'll take less,
because I think they charge a percentage of the deal that they broker.
Right.
Okay, so it's like, we'll give you 2% versus 5% or whatever.
And we took no percent, obviously, because we wanted the max to go to our student athletes.
Wow.
So all good.
Okay, so that was the first iteration. So
that was step one of, hey, okay, there is opportunity here. Then once we got that off the ground, we said, okay, our schools need to run with that angle. Because some schools liked Open Doors. There's another company called Influencer. There's a lot of people, as you might expect, in this cottage industry of NIL. So each school has now figured out how do they want to do it. Now enter the collectives, and that's what you're talking about, like the wrestler example, the quarterback at Miami. Those are essentially, I call them the third-party booster funds that are set up to supplement whatever sort of athletics aid student athletes are getting. It's not supposed to be a recruiting inducement, but at the end of the day, it's a bit of quid pro quo of student athlete comes here, this is what they're going to get through the collective. It used to be you had to do something, like go out and promote a product or a charity or have a certain number of appearances. And that is still technically the rule. The new NIL that's going to take place after this House settlement goes through is going to allow schools to do direct NIL deals with student athletes.
So you think it'll get rid of the collective?
I think most collectives will come in-house.
Okay. So then it's like, you say you have $10 million or whatever it is in your collective, and instead of it being a third-party entity of like boosters and, you're writing checks or for promotion of whatever,
right.
It's going to be more like Detroit Mercy, we're giving you a $25,000 check to come be the star on our team.
So Detroit Mercy already has a collective called the Shield. That Shield will come, I believe, in-house post the settlement that will likely happen in April. And then as they're recruiting a student athlete, they will have the ability to say, Here's your scholarship. So your more standard athletic scholarship package. On top of that, here is your name, image, likeness opportunity or financial offer.
And do you just like sign that over? Like right now, if I had a year of eligibility left, which I do, if anyone out there is interested, they just like write you a check and you get it at the beginning of the season and you're just like chilling. And
well, I think most schools have realized they need to really be intentional about one, what is the overall package here? Because at the end of the day, we still want these athletes to go to class, right? They are still student athletes. They absolutely are. So they got to do that. And then that NIL money, depend on what the deal is, because now you can pay student athletes for their name, image, likeness. So literally it could be, I want to pay you, Nate, and use your name, image, likeness to promote our season ticket sales.
Yeah, to sell jerseys or
Right.
Like I think
there could be a licensing, but that needs to be a licensing give back to you too. But you're going to go hire an advisor or an attorney, as you should as a student athlete, to make sure that NIL agreement is reviewed. Like you should go, just as today. I mean, most student athletes have agents, especially at the Power 5 level, not as much at our level. But they're going to have those documents reviewed.
Are there Horizon League athletes with agents?
They would probably call them advisors.
Yes.
But they are absolutely taking and that would be, so if a collective offers a deal to a student athlete now in the Horizon League, which is happening, that student athlete has, and this is legal, can take that opportunity to a third-party advisor or an agent and say, what do you think?
I just can't. Like, I was worried about like SAT scores and getting the FAFSA turned in and all that stuff. And it's like now you're working on like licensing deals and this, that, and the other thing.
It's pretty complex.
So talk to me about this, the house settlement deal and what's going on there.
Multiple years ago, there've been multiple lawsuits happening, right? They all got combined into this class action. It's called, like the word that you're seeing in the headlines is the house settlement. Mm-hmm. And that actually includes 3 different court cases. That's more like a law school lecture. I'm not going to get into that. Okay. But the point is, these were different groups of student athletes suing for benefits or pay for play or shared broadcast revenue, but saying, hey, we deserve a share of the pie in a look back. So looking back in prior years. The NCAA and the Power conferences, the Power 5 were the named defendants. So they reached a settlement with that plaintiff's attorney representing however many thousand student athletes. That settlement has to get approved by the judge, and that judge is Claudia Wilkin out in California, and she scheduled the hearing date on championship day of the men's tournament, as in April 7th. So certainly be a very interesting day. I think just before tip-off, I think her hearing will start. It's like at 4 p.m. or something crazy like that. So at any rate, the hearing is set to occur that day. If she approves the settlement, I don't think it'll happen that day, but she'll approve the settlement, let's say, at some point within 30 days of that hearing. That's when then you're going to see, I believe, a lot of collectives coming under the umbrella of athletics.
And are they going to have to pay, the NCAA going to have to pay back?
And as part of that, the NCAA agreed. So the exposure was $18 billion, and that's just for all of Division I, mainly the Power 5 conferences. So the settlement is to pay $2.8 billion in back damages. Most of that money, 90% of it, is going to Power 5 football players. 10% is going to everyone else, and it starts with men's basketball and women's basketball. And then
wait, 90% of it goes to men's or just football players in Power 5 conferences?
Because of the formula used, the overwhelming majority of revenue comes from college football.
Well, think about, again, I keep putting it to this one because he was pretty open about it. Like Johnny Manziel talks about how many number 2 Texas A&M jerseys they sold at $100 a pop. Like, I don't know the number, but millions of dollars, I'm assuming, in his merchandise sold that he didn't get a slice of.
Right.
And now that his athletic career didn't really work out, it's like a couple million extra bucks, like, wouldn't hurt.
Under the changes of today, he would get that money. Like, whether the settlement goes through or not, that's the new change. Of student athletes can absolutely get make money off of their name.
And is this settlement, I mean, you guys weren't a named defendant or anything like that, right, but is it affecting you guys?
Yes, because the payment of back damages is being absorbed by all of Division I. And candidly, like, this has been a bit of a bone of contention. Why are so many of us in the mid-major space absorbing some of this debt, if you will, when the money is not going to our student athletes. It's not going to Horizon League student athletes over the like in this look back of 6 years. It's like a look back of 5 or 6 years. The answer has been, well, because you are part of Division I, so you enjoy the rewards, you also have to take on some of the risk. But it is absolutely affecting us.
Wow.
Yes.
And I don't know the bottom line of the NCAA or whatever, but like $2 billion to just pull
it's a lot
out.
of money.
I don't even know.
The good news is, if there is any, it's going to be paid out over 10 years. So that gives a little bit of relief. The NCAA has healthy savings, and then the NCAA is essentially going to withhold money from all of us in Division I for the next 10 years to a pretty hefty percentage.
Do you think that we as the consumer will see that?
No.
Like, will there be a way of like broadcast value or something goes down? Or
I do not. At our level, we're going to figure out how to make it work. And in particular, we did, like even in the Horizon League, we said we're not going to affect even our student athlete championships. So still they're all produced. The gifts are there. The experiences are there. We're going to find other ways to absorb cuts. At the Power 5 level, they're getting ready to enjoy a pretty significant increase in their college football contract, which is not, that money does not go to the NCAA at all. That's strictly outside of the NCAA. That just goes to the power conferences. They're going to be fine.
All right, folks, Mother's Day is around the corner, and I'm going to help you get prepared. Ditch the Amazon or Target candle and get mom something from Warm Glow Candle Company. They're based out in Centerville, Indiana, and they make some of the best candles I have ever smelled. They have made my house smell unreal. They aren't your average candle that burns out in 5 minutes. Oh, no. Your mom is going to get tons of use out of this, and every time she lights it, she's going to be thinking about how you are her favorite child. I love the apple cinnamon and the creamy vanilla bean, but my absolute favorite is the blueberry cobbler. It smells just like visiting my grandma's house after she spent all Saturday morning baking. If you've ever driven eastbound 70, you have probably seen their massive candle where the shop is, but you can also order online and they'll ship them right to your door. I know you're going to get your mom a candle for Mother's Day. Now you can do that and support an awesome Hoosier business in the process. Head to warmglow.com to check out all their amazing scents. Now let's get back to the episode. They'll do all right. Yeah. I mean, with the amount of money being thrown around, right. I assume that they're going to figure out how to get this, take care of the $2.2 billion and right. Go make 10 billion more or whatever it is. Okay, so when you think about, you were at Church, Hiddle, and Antrim, and you had started their sports law practice, right? What got you excited to take this opportunity with the Horizon League?
So when I left the NCAA, I knew some folks at Church, Hiddle, and Antrim, or CCHA, just to keep the acronyms going
CCHA,
here.
Come on. Left the NCAA for CCHA.
There you go.
And then the HL.
Just like that. So with the CCHA, it's an Indiana firm that's been here for nearly 100 years, I think more than. They wanted to start a sports law practice, and the attorney that wanted to lead that effort, Kelly Fagan, had interned with me at the NCAA, total all-star, top of her class in law school. So I said, if you're going to do something, I will do it with you because I know it'll be a success. So we started it, and the goal was to frankly represent institutions being investigated by the NCAA, since obviously I had been on the other side of that. And that was the practice we built up. Now I think we're up to 8 or 9 attorneys, not only doing that, but more importantly, helping with Title IX issues, helping schools figure out this NIL space and conferences. There's really, that group has really grown. When I moved to the Horizon League and started there as a chief operating officer, then I just moved into an advisor role, but has continued to help build up this sports law practice.
It does make sense if you're coming from an insider to know, okay, yeah, go out and represent universities.
It's pretty fun.
And how long did you do that for?
A few years.
Okay. And then when it came to time to come and join the Horizon League, what got you excited about that opportunity?
I missed really the working, if you will, on a team in the midst of college sports. I had no idea what happened in a conference office, though I knew about the championships, and I didn't understand about officiating, about scheduling, about figuring out where do our championships happen, and like we talked about, how did our basketball championship come to Indy? Didn't understand that happens. The whole media contract, when I walked in, we were just in the midst of negotiating an extension of our ESPN media rights agreement, which we took that over the finish line, and we since have done it again. There's so much that happens in a conference office, and I love it. It's been a great experience.
And then how did you end up working with Sports Corp as well?
So that is purely volunteer. I was just, probably because I work in college sports, was asked to join their events and strategy committee. That's probably now 5 years ago, and really enjoyed that, working with some real just strong leaders here. Dennis Dye in particular, I feel like he's with Shield Sexton, but he is behind the scenes for any major sporting event happening here on Sports Corp board. But then through just serving on that committee, then there was an opportunity to move into a stronger leadership role as board chair, and I absolutely said sure.
And for those, we haven't done like an official Sports Core episode yet. Like, give the listeners a feel for the work that Indiana Sports Core is doing.
So Sports Corp founded in 1979, first one in the whole country, and it was a recognition by our city leaders at the time. And you think of icons like Jim Morris and Tom King, who said, we need to really make sports part of our strategy. And it was primarily our economic strategy, but also our unifying strategy to give our city and state something to rally around. So that's 1979, and the goal was, let's be the capital of amateur sports. Right? And so we hosted the Pan Am Games, hosted other key events.
We did an episode with Milt Thompson.
Okay.
And Milt talked all about like he flew down to Cuba and made
it happen.
Oh my
right?
gosh. It was crazy. He tells he's already a good storyteller, but when he talked about what brought the Pan Am Games to life, it was really, really cool.
Well, and Jim Morris used to tell the story of riding in a golf cart with then NCAA president Sed Dempsey, who was a mentor of mine when I was at the NCAA. And Jim said to Sed, what do you think about the NCAA relocating to Indy? He said Sed nearly fell out of the golf cart and then said, that's actually a good idea. If you think about it, that was the capstone of Indy achieving the capital of amateur sports, right? Getting the NCAA headquarters to move here now 25 years ago. So now fast forward, we're 40 years. Indy has hosted the Super Bowl, how many Final Fours, how many other premier sporting events. The Sports Corp has such a leadership role in bringing, one, all of those events here, so bidding on them, and then two, running them. So that's primarily what Sports Corp has done. We now said, okay, we're about 40 years old. What's next? Because there are now over 300 sports commissions across the country. We were the first. Everybody else is doing it, including Vegas, Nashville, Chicago. They're all saying, all right, we see sports too. We want to get on this. We want to get on this train. So that's why we recently launched our 2050 vision, which is really, I would say, the next iteration of where we were in 1979 when we said we want to be this. Well, now we're in 2025 and we're saying we're going to be that.
What are we going to be?
I was setting you up a little there.
Oh, what is the 2020 vision for the Indiana Sports Corp?
So by 2050, we want to be the global epicenter of sports.
The global
epicenter. So I'll define it if you want.
Yeah, please do.
When we launched this, we didn't just sit in a room as a board and say, okay, how does this sound? And talk with our president, Patrick Talty, who was just incredible. And by the way, the prior president, Ryan Vaughn, also, I think, really positioned the Sports Corp for this moment. And now Patrick and his team with Sarah Myers have just led it. Knowing that, we said, all right, let's go talk to the stakeholders. Over 300 different organizations, interviewed, surveyed, all that good stuff. We came out with, okay, we're going to build this ecosystem. We're going to keep doing events, but we know if that's all we do, we're at risk here. We're at risk of Vegas or Nashville or other cities throwing more money and beating us out of some of these events. Dallas, right? I mean, so it's how do we keep doing the big events, but make them even more special beyond Hoosier hospitality? Well, we said, well, we got to build this ecosystem. We want to be the sports tech hub, and we've already done that with SportsTech HQ, which would be another good podcast. 37 sports tech companies have located to Indiana.
Yes, I talk with Brian all the time, and they're a partner of mine, and they're doing some of their companies that have come here and are like in the works of coming here are crazy cool.
It's amazing. So we want to be the sports tech hub. We want to be the place of sports education where any student that wants to go to research, study, learn about sports, working in sports, they're coming here. Right now, Ohio University is a place where people claim, oh, I went to there and got my master's in sports administration. That needs to be happening here in our state, because why wouldn't you if you can work the Super Bowl and Final Fours while you're getting your degree? We want to be the place where sport organizations come. So yeah, we got the NCAA here. Horizon League is headquartered here. USA Track and Field is staying here. We're working to keep USA Gymnastics here. What are the other 20 organizations we need to be recruiting here? Because when you come here, you bring your events, you bring your staff, you bring this whole ecosystem of people working and leading in sports.
What's the number one organization that's not in Indy currently that needs to move to Indianapolis?
Oh, I love that question. I'm going to shoot for the stars here and say the USOPC, Colorado, United States Olympic Committee, but it's Olympic and Paralympic Committee. Their headquarters.
Okay.
Like that would be the reach.
If the Olympic Committee moved from Colorado,
USOPC moved here, like that would be, but so you got to build towards it by getting more NGBs here, national governing bodies, right, of different sports. I think even getting National Association of Basketball Coaches, there's a Women's Basketball Coaches Association, there's a lot of different groups we could get. And that takes me to the fifth pillar, which is we want to be the capital of women's sports. So if all of these things happen where a person that wants to study sports is coming here, a person that works in tech is sports tech's coming here, a sports organization is relocating here, then we could absolutely build towards being this global epicenter of sport, and then more importantly, be the capital of women's sports.
I love that. What, 79, they made the claim, like, we want to be amateur sports capital of the world, right? And now to say we want to be the global epicenter of sports?
That's it.
Is that it? Is that the tagline? Indianapolis, the global epicenter of sports. And I think it's cool to come and put together, like, we know where we've been, and now, like, having a 2050 vision is like, you know, you got to know where you're going, and you got to shoot for the stars, right? And keep guiding towards that North Star. I think that's super impactful work. I'm on the college basketball marketing committee for Sports Corp. I actually have like a meeting tomorrow, I think, because we're hosting the Final Four next spring.
26.
It's coming from San Antonio, I believe, to here. Yes. So it'll be super fun. And it's awesome. And I do think that some people take that for granted, that we get to host these high caliber championship events, that we have the NCAA headquartered here in Indianapolis, that we have the Horizon League here, and I mean, a laundry list of other sports organizations, but not enough. There's plenty of space for you too. U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. We'll take you as well. That brings us to our next segment. This is the Younger Years segment. It's brought to you by our friends at Orr Fellowship. They're a great organization here in Indiana, helping develop young business leaders across the state. Julie, what advice would you give to your 22-year-old self?
One would be, it's going to be okay. Two, and I remember being told this as a 22-year-old intern. I went to a conference where sport interns from across the country were there. So I was an intern at the national office when the NCAA was in Kansas City. Interns there from the Big Ten, from the SEC, right? I mean, I don't know, like 50 of us. And I remember people up on the panel talking. The theme that really I kept hearing that frankly was new to my 22-year-old self was, it is all about relationships. To me at the time, did not fully resonate because I came through college. It was about grades and GPA. It was about working really hard on the basketball court and then the win-loss column and stats and all that. I didn't understand the relationship piece and how true that was. So in my intern class, Vicki Chun, 25 years ago, more than 25, this was now 28 years ago, she's currently the AD at Yale. Still a good friend. At that time, we were developing a relationship, and it wasn't, for the purpose of networking. But I can't tell you how many times she and I have called on one another. Hey, what do you think about this? Hey, what do you think about that? Another person who I worked with for 20 years at the NCAA just called me last night about the house settlement. She works in a different conference as an athletics director, Division I school. Hey, how are you guys thinking about this? So it is about the relationships. Or whenever you're doing a deal with ESPN, because I know who this person is and that his dog matters to him like my dog matters to me. Like, it is about the relationships, and I don't think you can overstate that.
When you're a senior in college, you think that it's like my resume and my accolades are going to get me these things. And then you realize as you get a little bit older and seasoned that like the person on the other side of the table is a person.
Right.
And that being impressive on paper and being a relatable individual that people want to go to work with or do business with or any of those things, like those relationships matter so much.
And for your personal happiness too, just in terms of enjoying what you do because of who you're working with. And then also, candidly, you're going to get more done because you're motivated to help someone and they're going to be motivated to help you.
I love that. That is spectacular advice. We've come to the lightning round where we just have some fun questions to round out the episode. First question, and I know you can't pick a favorite team or school within the Horizon League, but is there a Horizon League athlete that you're really rooting for right now?
Jack Golke, who played for Oakland, he's trying to make it in the pros. He has such a passion for basketball, which we saw it after he scored his 10 threes in the game against Kentucky. I'm staying in the same hotel as the team, getting ready for, they're playing NC State the next day. I get up early, go to the workout room. He's in there working out.
No way.
Yeah. And I just remember thinking...
Did you say something like...
I just said...
Like, dude, take it easy.
No, I said, I believe. Like, go get him.
Do you go to like if a Horizon League team makes postseason, you go to the games?
I do. And I'm there. I try to be there for men and women if they're staggered days. But yeah, so thankfully I was there, and I packed, assuming they were going to win, by the way. I had, you got to pack, you got to plan to win.
Do you have gear from every school?
Some, but I usually just dress a little more neutral.
All right, fair.
But at any rate, I'm rooting for him because of what he stands for. And I think even like I saw it there, personally, but I've seen the way he carries himself. And then, I mean, just in terms of our current student athletes, like just being on the swim deck 2 days ago, it's amazing. Like you think about the hours that they put in without the public accolades to then show up to give it their best in that pool. Like that to me, that's awesome.
Amen. And you were also a college athlete yourself.
I played basketball long ago.
And you were an All-American?
I was.
That's impressive. Did you have a go-to pregame ritual back when you were playing?
I wasn't very superstitious. I
just a little stitious.
Sorry, I don't have any.
No,
I say this a lot. I was a nerd. Like I studied a lot, and so because I had an academic scholarship, not an athletic scholarship, so the pressure was on very clear to keep that GPA high. And I mean, I would literally because any bus trips, I was studying the whole time. So, that was kind of my distraction, I guess you could say.
That's fair. Do you have a favorite memory from your college sporting career?
It was my senior year. We had won conference all 3 years. Our record ended up being like 96-16. I didn't even understand how good that was at the time because
over 4 years?
Yeah, we were good. And we were good before I got there, and we were good long after, and they won a national championship a couple years after I graduated. My coach did, who I'm still close with today. And I remember we're at Wheaton. This is going to be way in the weeds here, but
no, I need it.
It's conference championship is on the line. We had to travel up to Wheaton, and a fan bus came, which was a big deal for Division III basketball. But we had great fans traveled. Of course, all the parents are there and some students, and it's down to the wire. We had to win the game to win the conference championship, and this would be year 4. I didn't want to leave there without us having this championship. 3 of us seniors had played all 4 years together. I was roommates with one of them. We're still friends today, like all this, right? So coming down to the wire 2 minutes before this, I get elbowed, blood gushing out my eyebrow. So I have to go out of the game. And the trainer's trying to stitch me and this and that. I was like, you got to get this fixed. I got to get back in. She fixed it. I'm back in the game. And coach calls a play, does not have me taking the shot. And I was like, Coach, I'll take the shot. Like, just give me the ball. She was like, okay, you're right. Because I thought if I'm a senior, I should be taking this. So she drew the play up, gave me the ball.
Wait, you look at your coach and you say, no, I'm taking the shot.
We had that relationship because I just felt like if somebody's going to miss it, it needs to be me. As well as I was confident too, but I was like, this is a senior shot, right? Because I think she had a junior taking it.
This is a senior shot.
She figured it was going to be, they were going to have like a triangle and 2 and maybe put 2 on me because they assumed the ball was coming to me. And I was like, I'll just take it. You know how sometimes you just feel good? And I felt good. I'm just like, this is supposed to be.
Blood's coming out of one eyebrow, but she still feels good. It was a little dramatic, and I made it, and we ended up winning. And like we went up by 1 point. It was like you had to make it. And I just remember like looking up and seeing my parents, seeing my coach. Like it was one of those kind of movie moments where that I will always treasure that. And then we had the big celebration afterwards. The community was really there for us. But it was just a relief because as seniors, we were able to deliver that, the 4th year. I got chills. Heck yeah.
I haven't told that story before,
I love it.
So you got it out of me.
Oh, well, yeah. I just think the one thing that's super impactful or powerful that I'm going to take out of that, obviously winning the conference championship is great. If someone was going to miss it, it was going to be me.
Yeah.
If I miss, I got the shoulders, I can carry that and look myself in the eye, but I want that opportunity and I want that to be on me. And I think that's true leadership. There's so many great life stories to take out of that. I do think in a world where there's so many options to do anything, like high school kids can start a side hustle, make content on Instagram, play video games, get a job, yada, yada, yada. Like, why sports?
I've always, so when I left college, I didn't even fully plan on working in sports. And then I realized the NCAA has this internship. So I took that. I applied, but I was, accepted. And then I figured I would go to law school, which I ended up doing at night here at IU McKinney, and I'm really grateful they had the evening division. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to get my law degree. But I thought, then I'd go on and be a lawyer had no idea what type of law. Then I recognized as I'm working at the NCAA, like you can actually, your job can be in something you're passionate about. Now I feel like kids today hear that more. Yeah, you're doing it.
Right.
It was a little more in my generation of get a job that pays the bills, that makes an impact, that you feel like you're doing good, and be grateful.
Yeah.
It wasn't find your passion and pursue it. So, of course, my parents wanted me to be happy, but they were like, what's your degree and how are you going to make money? Like, so.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely the balancing act, because sometimes people overcorrect and are just like, oh, well, playing video games makes me happy, so I should just play. And it's like, no, you have to balance passion with, but it's never been easier to balance your passion with also making money.
I would agree. And there are, especially today, there's so many careers in sports. If that's your passion, and that's what I realized is I really enjoy the subject matter of sports, primarily because of the transformation that happens for so many people that not just play it, but work in it. And it's frankly fun. So it's okay to have fun at your job. It's still hard. I mean, I still travel a lot. There are days just like I get up at 4 a.m. if I've got to go someplace, or there's a lot. I mean, there are commitments just like in every job. You got to work hard. But if you enjoy it, at the end of the day, you feel good about it.
Okay, I couldn't agree more. Basketball, easy sport to spectate. Lots of people like to watch basketball. Lots of people like to watch football. What is the most underrated sport to be a spectator of?
Our cross country and our track meets, literally see people giving it their all as they collapse sometimes across the finish line. I mean, it is the actual passion poured out. To me, I love that. I'm also not a great runner, so I appreciate that even more.
I would say track meets for sure, or the end of a cross country meet.
Yes,
because in the middle, it's hard to spectate when they're like here, there, and everywhere. But the end of it, or a track meet, and you're seeing that at the end, and it's like it's similar to swimming, but you can't see as much of the I don't know. You see everything like the last 200 meters of a mile run. And you're just like, holy smokes, that's Cole Hocker, right?
Yes.
Like that feeling.
Huge.
Holy smokes.
And track's cool because you've got the races happening, but you could also have field events happening. So you've got the shot put being thrown, the high jump. I mean, there's a lot happening there.
Track meet is like the perfect thing if you have like a kid with ADHD or something. You're like, hey, do this.
Let's run over here.
It's perfect for me. Like, keep them entertained. Well, thank you so much. We're down to the final 3 questions I ask everyone who sits in that seat. These are all about the state of Indiana. So first question, what's something the world needs to know about Indiana?
I believe, because now I've lived it, I moved here only knowing the people that I work with. Now, because of the ability to get involved, like if you want to get involved, using the IN here of get in, if you want to get involved in this state, it is a wide open opportunity. And you can really marry your passion with your impact.
It rewards those who put the effort in.
Yes.
I could not agree more. What is a hidden gem in Indiana?
I mean, I love our parks. Our family spends a lot of time when we're not doing the youth sports circuit going to parks, whether it's hiking, biking on the trails. I mean, and I love the fact that Indiana keeps those parks up, whether it's, Turkey Run, the falls, like there's
Clifty Falls.
Yes, there's some. My husband and I have made it a habit of every year for our anniversary trying to go to a different park in the state to hike and experience it. And it's a way to make sure we're going around, and sometimes we take the kids, sometimes we don't. But I think our parks, and we need those, like getting outside. I think we learned that through COVID, the power of a good walk. There's nothing like it.
Amen. Well, what youth sports are you in the thralls of at this stage in life?
Both girls are pretty heavy into basketball.
Okay. Where is the best facility to spectate youth girls basketball?
The PAC what's the PAC stand for? Pacers Athletic Center up in Grand Park.
Yeah.
That whole complex up there is pretty remarkable. We also spent a lot of time in Mojo Up, formerly known as Finch Creek. That's another great complex. So, and the fun thing is there's courts all around. So if your kid's in is a little bit of a lull, you can go watch something else.
Hey, sometimes it'd be like that.
Yeah. But I think those are good facilities.
I love it. Final question. You get to share the love with somebody else. Who is a Hoosier we need to keep on our radar? Someone who's doing big things.
Her name is Ivory Salmon. She's a vice president with KeyBank, and that is not why I know her. I know her because she's been a female for Fever with me, which was something that Allison Barber started to get female leaders to come together to meet and then support the Fever before the Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark era when we were building in our building era, so to speak. Then Ivory's now in the local organizing committee for the Horizon League. She's on the WNBA All-Star board with me. She doesn't just agree to serve. She shows up and gives it her all and figures out how to take these events that we're involved in and connect them to the community.
Ivory Salmon?
Ivory Salmon.
All right. And she's you said VP at KeyBank?
Vice President with KeyBank.
All right. And I love that. And I love the idea of Females for Fever. And I love that people have to kind of say like BCC or ACC.
Yeah, that is a
right?
milestone, right?
It is
You're right. It's a mile mark.
Oh,
yes.
I was a Fever season ticket holder BCC.
Which I was, by the way.
There
Yes, yes.
She remembers those days. Because, I mean, and I would say if you're, I know Allison's doing a ton of podcasts. The one that we got into, the raw stats on the bookings of Freddie Fever and social media hit, and like all these random things that aren't just like tickets sold is crazy. Like, we truly are very, very blessed, and it's this perfect storm of female sports in Indiana, and I love it.
It's why we are going to be the capital of women's sports, that fifth pillar of the 2050 vision.
Come
Full
on.
circle.
I love it. Julie, thank you so much for the time today. Thank you so much for all the work you're doing with the Horizon League, with SportsCore. It's incredible. This episode today, if you're listening before noon today, you can still make it over to Corteva Coliseum for the Horizon League Men's and Women's Basketball Championship. This will be the semifinals today. The finals are tomorrow,
Right.
Tuesday, March 11th.
Women's game tips at noon on the 11th, and men's game is 7 p.m. You can walk up and get tickets, or you can buy them online, horizonleague.org/Indy.
Yes, the Barbasol 2025 Horizon League Men's and Women's Basketball Championship at the Corteva Coliseum. We do have to
Yes.
say it is now called, as of a couple months ago.
That's right.
The Corteva Coliseum at the fairgrounds. It's going to be a good time. I'm sure I'll see you guys out there. Thank you so much. Keep up all the great work, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Get In. If you like what you heard, make sure you leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This show is made possible by our friends up at Sweetwater. Whether you're looking to start a podcast or take your content to the next level, click the link in the description to see all of my gear recommendations at sweetwater.com. If you want a behind-the-scenes look at everything we're doing across the state, make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nate Spangle. Thank you so much for listening and being part of what makes the Hoosier State great. We'll see you next time here on Get In.